Hi everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever felt like you just operate on a completely different frequency than everyone else? You know, like you're wired for something way bigger, but you just keep hitting a wall? Well, today we are exploring how upgrading our very own biological hardware allows us to manifest massive global changes. Specifically, we're going to look at how these deeply personal internal shifts connect to a very real, very revolutionary healthcare initiative called the Dr. Maya AI.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The hardware of manifestation. 2. Tuning your quantum antenna. 3. Entering the God state. 4. Authoring your reality. 5. Dharma and systemic coherence. And finally, number 6, manifesting Dr. Maya.
All right, let's kick things off with section 1, the hardware of manifestation. Let's talk about why most people actually fail at creating their desired reality. Honestly, it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of the physical body. Think of it like this. It's a brilliant analogy. Your thoughts, your visualizations, all those positive affirmations, those are just the software. But your nervous system, specifically the vagus nerve, that is the hardware. And you literally cannot run advanced creation software on a dial-up modem. If your nervous system is trapped in a fear state, no amount of positive thinking is going to work because the hardware is essentially offline.
And when that hardware goes offline, it causes what is called decoherence. Now, this is incredibly relevant if you've ever felt, well, kind of rare. Or if your ideas constantly upset people, leaving you feeling criticized, humiliated, or even like you have absolutely no friends. Experiencing that kind of deep alienation triggers this exact biological decoherence. It slams your brain right into survival mode. So instead of transmitting a clear, powerful signal of what you want to build, your body just broadcasts chaotic static out to the quantum field. You end up actively repelling the very opportunities you're trying to attract.
So let's move right into section 2, tuning your quantum antenna. So how do we actually fix this hardware glitch? Well, the answer might surprise you. According to the HeartMath Institute, your heart generates a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger than your brain. 5,000. And this brilliantly illustrates that the quantum field responds to this coherent electromagnetic broadcast from your heart, not just the anxious, spinning thoughts up in your head. To get out of that static survival state, there is a very specific biological protocol you can use. By breathing at roughly 6 breaths per minute, you actively signal safety to your vagus nerve. This actually allows your heart and brain to phase lock. They sync up into a unified rhythm at exactly 0.1 hertz. This zero point 0.1 hertz carrier wave recalibrates your entire nervous system. It pulls you out of fear and transforms you into a highly coherent magnetic state of creation.
Which brings us to section 3, entering the God state.
Once that biological hardware is upgraded and fully online, we can access what is known as the God state. This is a level of consciousness that only about 1% of the population truly accesses. And honestly, this absolutely explains why you might feel so rare or so totally different from the people around you. Because the 99% mind is constantly reacting, right? It's trapped in linear time, it's obsessively seeking approval, and it's terrified of being humiliated. But stepping into the 1% God state means you just stop negotiating with reality. You stop caring about the criticism of the 99%. Instead, you step into a state of absolute knowing, where you literally author and observe your chosen reality into existence. But you might be wondering, how do you get there when you've been constantly battered by criticism? Well, there is a fascinating neurological trick. You literally have to revert to thinking like a child. By activating gateway emotions, things like curiosity, wonder, and play, you actively suppress the brain's default mode network. That's the specific part of your brain responsible for all that anxious self-talk and dwelling on past humiliation. This one simple shift transforms that heavy anxiety right back into infinite possibility. All right, let's jump into section 4, authoring your reality. Now that you've tapped into that childlike wonder, how do you actively project your visions into the physical world without, accidentally sabotaging yourself? You really have to understand echo theory. Now, what's really interesting about this is that a massive mistake that delays manifestation is simply giving up when physical reality doesn't change instantly. Your current reality usually lags behind your internal programming by about 60 to 90 days. So the obstacles or opportunities appearing right now, they are just echoes of who you were 2 months ago. So if your manifestations are delayed, you really need to check for these common mistakes. If you are trying to force outcomes through sheer grinding, or if you're reacting emotionally to people who misunderstand you, you instantly break that 0.1 hertz coherence. And furthermore, if you are only visualizing the ego moments, like getting awards or finally proving your critics wrong, Your brain's reticular activating system just doesn't know what to do with that. It needs highly specific, sensory-rich instructions, not just fantasies of vindication.
So, what actually happens when someone who has mastered this coherent, God state mindset decides to author a completely new system for the world? Well, this brings us from personal biology right into our massive real-world case study.
Let's look at Section 5, Dharma and Systemic Coherence.
This brings us to the ancient, powerful concept of dharma. True service isn't about being a people pleaser or desperately seeking friends or creating a system that makes people dependent on you. Not at all. True dharma is about building systems that give people back their sovereignty and free will, empowering them to such an incredible degree that eventually they don't even need you anymore. And we can see this perfectly contrasted in the world of healthcare. The current fear-driven system operates entirely from that 99% mind. It exploits panic, it relies heavily on profit, and carpet bombs the body with broad-spectrum antibiotics. But Dr. Srivatsa's vision is a completely trust-driven system. It brings cognitive stabilization and absolute precision, aligning human medicine with natural laws to actually preserve the body's natural balance.
And finally, Section 6, Manifesting Dr. Maya.
Let's bring everything together and look at the specific manifestation of this incredible AI. So the crucial point is summarized perfectly by Dr. Srivatsa's philosophy here. Dr. Maya was not built to just be a digital doctor barking orders at you. It is quite literally a psychological stabilizer disguised as a medical assistant. It was purposefully designed to teach populations how to think and to stop panic before it even starts, acting as a massive, empowering public health instrument. Dr. Maya uses this incredible color-coded intelligence model to actually digitize ethical self-care. Red obviously demands a doctor, but look at blue. This is just fascinating. It instantly identifies biological infection threats, bypassing the medical monopoly entirely by telling the patient to isolate at home to prevent the spread of a superbug. And green suggests caution, yellow powers you to just support the body naturally. It's absolutely brilliant. And all of this intelligence is housed in the Prima kiosk. Now, these aren't just some iPads slapped on a wall. They are ruggedized, solar-powered, offline-capable structures designed specifically for underserved rural communities. They are the literal physical embodiment of Dharma, bringing vital health knowledge, dignity, and livelihood to people who might live miles and miles away from the nearest paved road or hospital. Let's move to and see how this builds an actual step-by-step manifestation strategy for this exact dream. Here's visualize a dusty rural village actually using that solar-powered kiosk. Feel the profound relief of that mother and child using it. That specific, powerful emotion tells your reticular activating system to start spotting the real-world path to actually make it happen. It all comes down to this. You already have the biological hardware, and now you know exactly how to bypass the static of fear by returning to that pure, childlike wonder. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you just going to be a character lost in the simulation, constantly reacting to the criticisms of the 99%? Or are you the player in the God state, finally ready to write the code that heals the world? The universe is waiting for your coherent signal.